Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. Today, we are looking at an absolutely massive landmark paper from the New England Journal of Medicine, one that fundamentally rewired the standard of care in neurology. We're talking, of course, about the DAWN trial. This is the study that sparked a complete paradigm shift in acute ischemic stroke management. It essentially took us away from just staring at a strict ticking clock and moved us entirely toward tissue-based triage. Okay, let's dive into this. For years, the absolute rigid rule in neural intervention was that notorious 6-hour window, right? If a patient with a large vessel occlusion came through the doors after 6 hours, or if they woke up with a stroke, well, the window for endovascular thrombectomy had firmly closed. But what if the time last known well just wasn't the whole story? What if we could actually salvage brain tissue up to 24 hours later? That is the exact clinical challenge the DAWN trial decided to take head-on. So in this rapid-fire explainer, we are going to break down the trial's mechanics and results. We're going to cover the late window challenge, patient selection and mismatch, the trial's unprecedented efficacy, its safety profile, and wrap up with the direct clinical implications for your daily practice.
All right, let's kick things off with Section 1, the Late Window Challenge.
Which brings us right into Section 2, patient selection and mismatch. To really test this extended window, investigators targeted patients presenting 6 to 24 hours out who had a confirmed ICA or proximal MCA occlusion. But the entire engine of this trial really relies on this concept, the clinical core mismatch. What this means is a clinical deficit measured by a super high NIHS score that is just disproportionately severe compared to the relatively small volume of infarcted tissue you're actually seeing on imaging. Basically, you have a terrible clinical exam, but a small core, which means there is a massive penumbra there just crying out for reperfusion. Now, to standardize this across the board, DAWN relied on automated perfusion software like Rapid, grouping these patients into 3 very strict tiers. So for Group A, these are your patients 80 years or older, NIHSS of 10 or higher, with an infarct core under 21 milliliters. Group B, under 80 years old, NIHS 10 or higher with a core under 31 milliliters. And then you have Group C, also under 80, but with a massive clinical deficit. We're talking NIHSS 20 or higher, but a core sitting between 31 and 51 milliliters. These highly specific thresholds were absolutely crucial. They isolated the exact patients who had the absolute most to gain. Moving on to Section 3, unprecedented efficacy. And yeah, as you'll see, the results were so good, they had to stop early. In fact, enrollment was ethically halted at just 31 months because of the pre-specified interim analysis. Why? Just look at the 90-day functional independence. The thrombectomy group achieved an astounding 49% rate of MRS 0 to 2. The control group, only 13%. I mean, that is a massive 33 percentage point adjusted difference in favor of late window intervention. It's really staggering. And this brilliantly illustrates exactly what we're talking about. If you look at the visual shift here, notice the dramatic expansion of those lighter segments on the left side for the thrombectomy group. That right there represents a profound shift toward functional independence. It literally means giving late-presenting patients their lives and their mobility back. So, the crucial point is this number right here, 2.8. That is our number needed to treat. Let that sink in for a second. For every 2.8 patients treated with thrombectomy in this extended 6 to 24-hour window, one additional patient achieved functional independence. In the realm of stroke neurology, an NNT of 2.8 is an absolute game changer. It completely justifies the immense institutional effort required to screen and identify these folks. But, of course, what's the cost? Let's check out Section 4, evaluating the safety profile. Historically, revascularizing late carried this dreaded fear of fatal reperfusion injury. But looking at the 90-day mortality data here, it's highly reassuring. We're looking at 19% in the thrombectomy group versus 18% in the control group. That gives us a completely non-significant p-value of 1.00, meaning going in late simply did not increase the risk of death. Furthermore, when we evaluate the rate of symptomatic intracranial hemorrhage, which is obviously the major procedural fear here, we see 6% for the thrombectomy group compared to 3% for the control group. And again, no significant difference. The p-value is 0.50. So by strictly selecting patients with those small ischemic cores, the trial definitively proved the mechanical safety of intervention, even in this extended late window. Finally, let's wrap up with Section 5. Clinical implications. The Dawn trial didn't just add a tiny footnote to the literature, it fundamentally rewrote how we approach the ER doors. So here are your big, actionable takeaways. First, the paradigm has definitively shifted from time-based to tissue-based triage, period. Second, late window and wake-up stroke interventions are now entirely validated. Third, and this is key, implementing this absolutely requires automated perfusion imaging, like CTP or DWI via Rapid, to calculate that mismatch accurately. And finally, that staggering NNT of 2.8 more than justifies aggressive screening up to 24 hours. You have to actively look for these patients.
So I want to leave you with this to really consider for your own practice. With the rigid 6-hour window completely shattered, how will your institution adapt its rapid perfusion imaging protocols to ensure no late-presenting stroke patient is left behind? The salvageable tissue is waiting. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and as always, keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible in medicine.